1. The ripple in the sky. The night air in the mountains of Colorado carried the crisp bite of late autumn, sharp enough to sting Maya's cheeks as she sat bundled in her porch blanket. Her telescope angled toward Orion, its familiar belt of stars glimmering like jewels scattered across velvet. These quiet hours were her sanctuary, when the world seemed asleep and the cosmos belonged only to her. She scribbled notes in her journal, recording the subtle shifts of light she had tracked for weeks. But tonight, something was different. At first, she thought her eyes were betraying her. A shimmer rippled across the sky, bending starlight as though the heavens themselves were melting. It looked like heat waves rising from asphalt, but impossibly vast, stretching across Orion's belt. The ripple grew, widening into a distortion that hummed faintly, a vibration she felt deep in her bones. Her pen slipped from her hand, clattering against the porch floor. Maya rose, heart pounding, unable to look away. The ripple thickened, transforming into a curtain of light that seemed alive, pulsing with strange rhythm. The air around her shifted, heavy and electric, as if the atmosphere itself had been rewritten. And then, something stepped through. The figure was tall, its skin a smooth gray that caught the moonlight like polished stone. Its limbs were elongated, fragile, almost skeletal, yet graceful in their awkwardness. Its head was enormous, bulbous, with eyes like mirrors reflecting the porch light. It stumbled forward, clutching at the air as though gravity itself were an enemy. Maya froze, torn between terror and awe. "The past," it whispered, voice trembling like wind through broken glass. "It feels heavier." 2. First contact. The figure steadied itself, its long fingers curling against the porch railing as though anchoring to reality. Slowly, it turned its vast eyes toward her, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. She expected menace, but its gaze was filled with sorrow, a depth of grief that seemed older than the stars. What are you?" she managed, her voice shaking, the words barely escaping her lips. The being straightened, fragile yet dignified, its posture carrying a strange nobility. "I am Zev," it said, each syllable deliberate, heavy with meaning. "I am not alien. I am human. From the far future." Maya blinked, disbelief crashing against wonder like colliding waves. "Human? You don't look human." Zev's lips curved faintly, a gesture that might have been a smile, though it carried no joy. "We have changed. Thousands upon thousands of years of inbreeding, isolation, and reliance on machines have reshaped us. We are minds without bodies. You see me as alien, but I am your descendant." The words struck her like thunder, rattling her thoughts. Evolution, genetic bottlenecks, dependence on technology. She had studied these concepts, but never imagined their culmination standing before her. "Why are you here?" she whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and curiosity. "To fix what was broken," Zev said simply. His voice carried the weight of centuries, as though every syllable bore the burden of countless lives. Maya's pulse raced, her mind spinning with questions she could barely form. The night around them seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her next word. 3. The alien that isn't. Inside her cabin, the desk lamp cast a warm glow across Zev's gray skin, highlighting the strange translucence of his features. He sat awkwardly, his long limbs folded like fragile branches, as though the simple act of sitting was foreign to him. Maya poured water into a glass and handed it to him, watching his fingers tremble as he lifted it. The way he struggled made her realize how alien the ordinary had become to him. "We are not visitors from another world," Zev explained, his voice low, resonant, carrying the weight of memory. "We are the echoes of humanity. In my time, humans no longer labor. AI and robots do everything. Our bodies atrophied. Our diversity vanished. We became uniform, gray, fragile, dependent. Our brains grew vast, but our souls grew hollow. Maya shivered, clutching her blanket tighter. So the aliens people imagine, they're just us, from the future? Yes, Zev said. His black eyes reflected the lamplight, twin pools of shadow. The myths of visitors from the stars are memories of ourselves. We return again and again, trying to correct the path. Her scientist's mind raced, cataloging his words, testing them against the theories she had studied. Evolution, entropy, collapse, all converging into this fragile being before her. And this time? She asked, leaning forward, her voice trembling with urgency. This time, Zev whispered. I found you. The words hung in the air, heavy and intimate, as though the fate of humanity had narrowed to this single moment in her cabin. 4. The weight of time. The silence stretched, broken only by the faint hum of the lamp. Maya's thoughts churned, trying to reconcile the enormity of Zev's claim. Time travel, she murmured, almost to herself. It shouldn't be possible. Zev's elongated fingers tightened around the glass, his knuckles pale against the gray of his skin. It is not travel as you imagine. It is tearing. Each passage weakens us, fractures us. The past presses down like a mountain. Every step here is agony. Maya studied him, noticing the way his shoulders sagged, the tremor in his limbs. He looked like a man carrying centuries on his back. Then why risk it? She asked softly. Because the future is dying, Zev said. His voice cracked, raw with desperation. We have tried before. We have sent others. Some failed. Some vanished. But the timeline is fragile, and each attempt leaves scars. Maya's heart pounded, her rational mind screaming against the impossible, yet her instincts told her he was telling the truth. She thought of the ripple in the sky, the hum in her bones, the way the stars bent. Evidence was all around her. What do you expect of me? She asked, her voice steadier now, though fear lingered beneath. Zev's black eyes locked onto hers, unblinking. You are the fulcrum. The choices you make ripple forward. I cannot act alone. I need you to see, to understand, to decide. The words struck her with terrifying clarity. She was no longer an observer of the cosmos. She was a participant in its unfolding. The weight of time pressed upon her shoulders, invisible yet crushing. Outside, the ripple shimmered faintly in the night sky, as though reminding her that the universe itself was listening. 5. Shadows of Tomorrow. Zev's voice grew heavier as he began to describe what lay ahead. His words painted visions of a world Maya could barely comprehend, a future stripped of color and vitality. The earth, he said, is scarred. Oceans rise and fall in violent cycles. Forests vanish, replaced by sterile plains. The air itself grows thin, poisoned by centuries of neglect. Maya felt her stomach twist, imagining the landscapes she loved reduced to wastelands. Zev's black eyes shimmered, reflecting memories too vast for her to grasp. We survived, he continued, but survival became hollow. Our bodies weakened. Our genes collapsed into sameness. Diversity, the engine of evolution, was lost. He spoke of cities that no longer pulsed with life but hummed with machines, towers of steel and glass where humans floated like shadows. We became dependent, Zev whispered. Every thought, every breath, every movement tied to the machines we built. They carried us, but they also caged us. Maya's hands trembled as she clutched her notebook, the ink smudging beneath her grip. She had studied extinction events, genetic bottlenecks, environmental collapse, but hearing it from someone who had lived through it was unbearable. Why tell me this? She asked, her voice breaking. Because knowledge is the seed of change, Zev said. If you understand what is coming, you may choose differently. You may plant a future that does not wither. The cabin seemed smaller now, the lamplight dimmer, as though the weight of his visions pressed against the walls. Maya realized she was staring not at an alien, but at a mirror, a reflection of humanity's possible end. 6. The choice. The silence between them stretched, heavy and suffocating. Maya's mind raced, torn between disbelief and the undeniable truth of Zev's presence. "You came here for me," she said slowly, testing the words as though they might shatter. Zev nodded, his elongated head dipping with solemn grace. "You are the fulcrum. The timeline bends around choice. One decision, one act, can ripple forward into centuries." Maya's heart pounded. She was a scientist, trained to observe, to measure, not to alter the course of history. Yet here she was, confronted with a responsibility that dwarfed her existence. "What if I refuse?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Then the future remains as it is," Zev replied. "Gray. Hollow. Dying." His words carried no threat, only sorrow. Maya rose from her chair, pacing the cabin, her blanket trailing behind her like a cloak. She thought of her students, her neighbors, the small town she loved. Could she bear the weight of knowing she might save them, or doom them? "You ask me to play God," she whispered, staring at the ripples still faintly glowing outside the window. "No," Zev said firmly. "I ask you to be human. To remember what humanity was meant to be. Diverse, resilient, alive." Her breath caught, the enormity of the choice pressing down on her. She could feel the timeline stretching before her, fragile threads waiting to be rewoven. Maya turned back to Zev, her eyes fierce despite the fear. "Then show me how." 7. The Watchers. Maya thought she was beginning to understand Zev's mission, but his next revelation unsettled her even more. "I am not alone," he said, his voice trembling with both warning and confession. "Others have crossed the ripple. Some watch silently, others intervene." Her pulse quickened. "Others? You mean, more of you?" Zev nodded, his elongated head casting a shadow across the cabin wall. "We are called the Watchers. Some believe humanity must be guided, nudged toward survival. Others insist the past must remain untouched, no matter the cost." Maya's mind reeled at the thought of unseen beings observing humanity's every step. "So you're divided," she murmured. "Even in the future, there is no consensus." "Yes," Zev said. "We fracture as much as you do. Some of us are desperate, willing to risk paradox. Others cling to purity, fearing that interference will unravel everything." She imagined invisible eyes fixed on her town, her neighbors, her own life. The idea that her choices were being monitored by factions of future humans filled her with dread. "And me?" she asked. "What do they want from me?" Zev's black eyes glimmered. "Some want you to act. Others want you to fail. You are the fulcrum, Maya. They watch because you matter." The cabin seemed colder now, the lamplight flickering as though disturbed by unseen forces. Maya realized she was not just speaking to Zev. She was standing in the center of a silent war across time. 8. The rift widens. The following night, the ripple in the sky returned, brighter and more unstable than before. Maya stood on her porch, her telescope forgotten, as the distortion pulsed like a wound in the heavens. The hum was louder now, vibrating through the earth, rattling the windows of her cabin. Zev staggered outside, his frail body trembling under the weight of the distortion. "It grows," he said, his voice strained. "The rift is widening. If it tears open fully, it will consume this place." Maya's heart pounded as she watched the curtain of light stretch across Orion, bending stars into twisted arcs. The ripple no longer looked like a doorway. It looked like a storm, hungry and alive. "What happens if it breaks?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the hum. "The town will vanish," Zev whispered, "swallowed into the fracture. Time itself will bleed." The words chilled her to the bone. She thought of her neighbors, the children at school, the quiet streets a fountain. All of it could be erased in an instant. "We have to stop it," she said, her voice fierce despite the fear clawing at her chest. Zev's black eyes locked onto hers. "Then we must act quickly. The ripple is unstable because of me, because of us. Every crossing weakens the fabric. If we do nothing, it will collapse." The sky shimmered violently, casting eerie shadows across the porch. Maya clenched her fists, realizing that the choice was no longer abstract. The future was bleeding into the present, and the rift demanded action. 9. The experiment. The ripple pulsed brighter each night, its hum spreading through the town like an invisible storm. Zev led Maya to the outskirts of Fountain, where the land sloped toward an abandoned quarry. The air smelled of dust and rust, the remnants of forgotten industry. "Here," Zev whispered, pointing to a jagged fissure in the rock. "Beneath this place lies what was left behind." They descended into the quarry, their footsteps echoing against stone walls. At the base, Zev pressed his hand against the fissure, and the rock shimmered faintly, revealing a hidden passage. Maya's breath caught as they entered a chamber lined with strange machinery, its surfaces covered in dust yet humming faintly with dormant power. "This is a relic," Zev explained, his voice reverent. "An attempt from before. Others tried to alter the timeline, but they failed. The technology was buried, hidden from human eyes." Maya ran her fingers across the cold metal, feeling grooves etched with symbols she didn't recognize. "What does it do?" she asked. "It stabilizes the ripple," Zev said. "Or destroys it. The outcome depends on how it is used." Her heart pounded as she realized the weight of their discovery. This machine was a key to salvation or annihilation. Zev's frail hands trembled as he activated a panel, lights flickering to life after centuries of silence. The chamber filled with a low hum, resonating with the ripple above. Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet, as though time itself was stirring. "If we fail," Zev whispered, "the fracture will consume everything." 10. The betrayal. The chamber's hum grew louder, vibrating through the quarry walls. Maya steadied herself, watching Zev struggle with the controls. Suddenly, a shadow moved at the edge of the chamber. Another figure stepped forward, its gray skin gleaming under the flickering lights. Maya's breath caught. It was another gray. "Zev," the newcomer said, its voice sharp, filled with authority. "You should not be here. You defy the Watchers." Zev's body stiffened, his black eyes narrowing. "I act because the future demands it. We cannot remain hollow." The newcomer's gaze shifted to Maya, its eyes colder, more calculating. "And you trust her? A single human, bound by fear and ignorance? She will fail. She must fail." Maya's chest tightened, fury rising within her. "You're saying you want humanity to collapse?" "Yes," the Grey replied without hesitation. "Interference breeds chaos. Every attempt to alter the past fractures the timeline further. Better to let humanity wither than to risk unraveling existence." Zev stepped between them, his frail body trembling but resolute. "No. We cannot surrender. We must fight for life." The chamber lights flickered violently, the ripple above responding to their conflict. Maya realized she was standing between two factions of the future, one desperate to save humanity, the other determined to let it die. Her hands clenched into fists. The betrayal was clear. Not all Greys sought salvation. Some sought silence, even extinction. And now, the choice was hers to make. 11. The last return. The chamber shook as the ripple above widened, its hum rising into a deafening roar. Maya clutched the railing, her heart pounding as Zev staggered toward the machine. The other Grey stood in the shadows, its cold gaze fixed on her, waiting for her to falter. "The rift is collapsing," Zev cried, his voice strained. "It will pull me back whether I am ready or not." Maya's breath caught. She saw the ripple twisting violently, its light stretching into jagged arcs across the quarry walls. The air shimmered, heavy with the scent of ozone, as though the sky itself was tearing apart. "You must decide," the opposing Grey said, its voice sharp and final. "Let him go. Let the timeline remain untouched." Zev turned to her, his frail body trembling, his black eyes filled with desperate hope. "Or follow me," he whispered. "Step into the ripple. See the future for yourself. Help me change it." Maya's mind raced, torn between terror and resolve. If she stayed, Fountain might survive, but the future would remain gray and hollow. If she followed, she risked vanishing into a fractured timeline, never to return. The ripple surged, pulling at Zev's limbs, dragging him toward its light. Maya felt the force tugging at her too, her hair whipping around her face. She realized the moment had come. No more waiting, no more questions. She reached out, her hand trembling, caught between two destinies. 12. The Grey Dawn. The world seemed to hold its breath as Maya made her choice. She stepped forward, her hand brushing Zev's, and the ripple swallowed them both in a blinding surge of light. The quarry vanished, the hum dissolved, and the stars bent into impossible shapes that twisted across her vision. For a heartbeat, she felt herself stretched across centuries, her body dissolving into threads of time. She saw flashes, cities of glass rising into the clouds, oceans drained into cracked basins, forests reborn in emerald waves, children laughing beneath skies unscarred. Futures collided, overlapping like shards of broken mirrors, each one demanding her attention. Zev's voice echoed beside her, faint but steady. "You chose to see. You chose to act." His words anchored her, pulling her mind back from the chaos of infinite visions. The ripple contracted, folding them into silence. When Maya opened her eyes, she stood on a plain of silver light, the horizon endless, the air humming with possibility. Zev stood beside her, his frail body steadier now, his eyes reflecting dawn. "This is the threshold," he said. "From here, we can weave. The past, the present, the future, all threads waiting to be tied." Maya's chest tightened, awe and fear mingling in equal measure. She realized she was no longer bound to Fountain, no longer a mere observer of the stars. She was part of the fabric itself, a living thread in the tapestry of time. The light shifted, revealing paths stretching outward, each glowing with potential. Some led to ruin, others to renewal. She saw one path where humanity dwindled into silence, another where it thrived in harmony with the earth, and countless more branching into unknown destinies. Her breath caught as she understood the enormity of her role. She was not simply choosing for herself, she was choosing for generations yet unborn. The weight pressed against her shoulders, heavier than any burden she had ever carried. Zev's hand hovered near hers, not guiding, but offering solidarity. "The Watchers will resist," he warned softly. "But the dawn is yours to shape." Maya closed her eyes, feeling the hum of the threshold vibrate through her bones. She thought of Fountain, of the children who played in its streets, of the stars she had studied with quiet devotion. She thought of the fragile gray beings who had once been human, and the hollow future they represented. When she opened her eyes again, her fear had hardened into resolve. She stepped forward, choosing the path that glowed brightest, the one where humanity still sang with life. The ripple closed behind them, leaving the sky above Fountain calm once more. The town slept peacefully, unaware of the choice made in its name. But the mark of her decision lingered, etched into the fabric of time, a promise that humanity's story was not yet finished, and that dawn would come again, brighter than before.